Coming up on this week's Silver Arrow Show, what is derating? I ask Andy Cowell. The team's sporting director tells me how the team stays within the rules when it comes to radio communications. And we have some serious racing for you right here in Brackley. In Baku, we heard a lot about derates over the radio and Lewis reporting a lack of power. So I want to get to the bottom of what a derate is. Andy Cowell, please can you explain?
I can have a go. So a derate is when we reduce the power of the total power unit, and specifically when the MGUK turns off.
So you've done some lovely drawings for us on the board here. Can you explain what each of these show and how it affects the car lap by lap and the driver? So
this is 3 traces, so throttle pedal, so right-hand pedal for the drivers. And what I'm showing here is that it's coming into a corner, so at full throttle, lifts off, he'll go onto the brakes as well, off the pedal for a while, and then when he's got enough grip, wants to accelerate out of the corner, will progressively come back on the pedal, again full throttle and down the straight. Now this traces the car velocity, so V car. So it's going quick, comes off the pedal, car slows down, gets enough grip, and then the car accelerates out. The velocity increases, the gradient's steeper to start off with, and then it tails off as the aerodynamic forces balance out with the propulsion. And then at the bottom, the interesting bit, the MGUK. So I've put a centre line, a 0 line on, going down the straight when the car's being propelled along, because the driver's asking the car to go as fast as possible. It's at the maximum 120 kilowatts, the 160 horsepower that I mentioned before. So 160 horsepower with the 740, so he's got 900 horsepower at this point. He comes off the pedal, it drops down, but it drops down to minus 160 horsepower because the MGUK then is braking, helping slow down the rear axle of the car. Then as the driver comes back on the pedal, it swaps back up, pushes the car along. Now what I've shown here is a fairly typical profile that you'd see between turn 2 and turn 3 at Baku. The driver's at full pedal, but we've run out of electrical energy, 2/3 of the way along that straight. You want to propel the car as much as possible in the early part of the straight because you want to get the car velocity up as quickly as possible. Lap time's all about accelerating the car as hard as possible at the first part of the straight. It derates, so that is an MGUK derate.
That's what I'm looking for, the famous derate.
Exactly.
So that's typical.
Exactly.
Let's find out what was happening then, because there was a problem, it was derating early. So what did that mean for each of these diagrams?
So for each of these, the drivers had got the same demand on the car, so their pedal trace was exactly the same. The V car trace would have been the same, apart from we had an early derate. So we'd incorrectly set up one of the calibrations for one of the engine modes. And what that was giving to both of the drivers was that the MGUK worked initially coming out of the corner, so it was turning off early and then staying at the 0 point. And what you then end up with is at that point, the car velocity is like that. You've still got the power of the engine, but what you've lost is the power of the MGUK. So you're 160 horsepower down. So as the driver's going along, he's expecting it to carry on accelerating to get him up to this sort of speed before the K cuts out. Frustrating for a driver.
The full interview on derating with Andy Cowell will be coming soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel.
We're at the 2016 Brackley Soapbox. Last year was great, we had a brilliant success, we came first. Our driver this year is Amber Morris. There's myself, Ollie, Isaac and George.
I feel a little bit nervous, first time doing this, but yeah, feeling okay about it, feeling good.
Connor trying to struggle with
That's what well done, Amber.
It was good overall. Bit of a letdown that we came where we did, but overall it was a good day.
The European Grand Prix in Baku put radio communications back in the spotlight. So I'm joined by Ron Meadows, the team's sporting director, who deals with race control during a race weekend. Ron, welcome to the Silver Arrows show. Can you explain a little bit about the restrictions on radio communications this year, please?
For 2016, it's much more restrictive than previous seasons, certainly on engine modes, gearbox modes, start procedures, and that's why you're seeing so much variation at the starts and performance.
How has that affected the team on a race weekend during the race? What's the process you have to go through now?
Well, if we need to say something which is not within the regulations, we need to speak to race control. And on the pit wall where I sit, there's an intercom panel directly to race control and Charlie Whiting, and we'll make requests, which we need to show him that this is safety critical, or that there's a good chance of the car not finishing if we don't do this various communication to the driver, and he'll make a call.
And what sort of timescales are we talking? Because we're dealing with split seconds out on track. How fast can you get those communications back from race control?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we don't blurt something out on the radio to the driver that could get us in trouble. So once we've realised and we understand what the problem is, then we need to go to Charlie and send him a data sheet of where we are, and speak to his various engineers from our side and the FIA, and then see what course of action we need to take to fix the problem.
And so looking at Baku as a prime example, how were you dealing with that? Were you talking to people on the pit wall and back in the garage as well? Because the race engineers don't sit with you on the pit wall.
Not just there, we're obviously speaking to people at Brixworth and Brackley, and also at the back of the garage, and the race engineers, and between us we were trying to figure out what the issue was. Once we understood it, then it was trying to communicate that to Lewis.
Is there anything you can do as a team to be better prepared for instances like that, looking ahead to the forthcoming races?
It's just a better understanding of the regulations, and also what you can actually ask, because it's quite subjective at the moment, and it's impossible to make a complete list of what you can say and what you can't say. It's normally as you're going through the whole process of a weekend and races, and the list is updated on a weekly basis of what's right and what's wrong, because Charlie, he doesn't want to hinder us. He wants all drivers to finish the race, but in the same token, he doesn't want us to drive the car for them.
That's it for this week's Silver Arrows show. The team will be at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this weekend, so if you're down there, come and say hi. And get ready for this. It's coming soon.